Electric vehicles, urban mobility, and climate change are some of the pressing issues taking center stage at the World Economic Forum in Dalian, China. Well, the second day of meetings come amid a rise in the use of green energy in the region as well as the world. Well, experts also urged governments to set up a binding framework to regulate development for artificial intelligence, with the technology still in its infancy stage. Well, let's go live to our correspondents, Tan Sihui and Olivia Siong at the forum in Dalian.
So electric vehicles are a hot topic at the summer Davos, but it comes as no surprise as it's a boom in Chinese market in recent years. And according to the International Energy Agency, 1 in 5 cars sold last year was electric. But, with this, it comes intense competition from the West. They're accusing the Chinese market of overcapacity, and so far the US and the European Union have already implemented, and they are looking to give out tariffs to the Chinese market, and Canada could be joining the fray.
But we do know, Sihui, that China has repeatedly rejected these accusations of overcapacity. We saw that too, even today, as we, in these panel sessions from Chinese speakers. One of the notable ones was China's former Minister for Science and Technology, Wang Gang, and he is actually credited as being the architect of China's EV policy, and he defended China's approach. In fact, he said that when the Chinese EV market was first developed, it was not to compete but to survive. And he said that that's because China doesn't have rich oil resources and needed alternatives. When it came to tariffs from the EU, he said that there are many countries in the bloc that have opposed the move, and he said that negotiations should continue. Have a listen.
中国的汽车市场上，宝马、奔驰、大众都有1/3的销售在中国。我们出去看到有各种各样的品牌，但中国人没感到，他觉得就像我们自己的汽车一样，一视同仁的。为什么当中国的电动汽车走到这个国外的市场上时，人会感到惊异，甚至感到恐慌呢？是我们现在贸易和投资还没有结合在一起。所以现在我们的这个新能源汽车虽然出口少，但我们可以开始尝试在欧洲投资，能够投资以后，它就在进入了本地的产业链，更加扩大了这个全球化的这个进程。所以尽管有地缘政治的影响，我想这个还是潮流。从政府的角度呢，那么现在我们也知道，江方正在协商，正在进行磋商。
And in a speech yesterday, Chinese Premier Li Qiang had defended the Chinese EV market. And this really reflects the priority by the Chinese government in terms of trying to boost the new productive forces and in turn boosting the Chinese economy.
That's right. I think just to give you a sense of the kind of discussion and buzz surrounding Chinese EVs, here in Dalian, I had the chance to moderate a session today about what's next for Chinese electric vehicles. And it was quite an electrifying discussion,
I
so
heard
to
it was
speak.
packed.
Yeah, I wish we could have brought our cameras inside because it was quite a lively discussion about it, but it was an off-record session. But I did sit down with one of the experts after the session to ask him, if the EU and the US and regions start to decouple or de-risk from China, what would that mean for the global energy transition? This is what he had to say.
Well, I think it will set it back because for the US, for example, to meet its targets, 60% of vehicles sold by 2030 have to be non-traditional combustion-powered vehicles. They have to be EVs or hybrids or hydrogen-powered vehicles. So how is the US going to be able to achieve that objective that it's signed up to if it blocks out the major producer of EVs in the world? I think General Motors and Ford and Stellantis have to work extremely hard and fast to perhaps even engage in some joint venture manufacturing with Chinese EV producers in order to be able to meet these targets.
Do you think we will come to a point where we will be seeing Chinese EV IPs in European or American branded cars, if that's the strategy for them to, work around tariffs?
It's a possibility, but I think the people who are behind the tariffs are smart enough to understand that there are workarounds like that that can be blocked as well if they so desire.
Now, another aspect of the energy transition is closed-loop recycling in the EV market. And as the EV market grows, there are more end-of-life batteries. And one company I spoke with, it says that it takes these end-of-life batteries and they make new ones using recycling the critical raw materials. And I asked the founder whether he believes recycling can be meeting China's mineral needs by 2042. And this is a claim made by battery maker CATL. So have a listen.
Actually, someday there will be no needs for the extra minimized from the virgin raw materials. We think they maybe happen after like 60 or 65% in the electrification in the market. Then we can recycle more materials from old one because we can regeneration of the new and the better materials, so they can fulfill the left of the rest of the market shares.
So you talk about different countries. You recently opened your first overseas recycling plant in Europe, in Germany. How did the company decide on the location? How different is the European market compared to China?
For that, samples could not ship to China for our testing site already existing. So we need to build a new site in Europe, and we can test for the battery. They will be made in Europe in future. And then they will be remade for battery materials, make the local closed loop in Europe, in North America, in Asia. So this is the ideal, and we try to support different partners in different countries for using different solutions.
I do want to point out as well that often when we think about electric vehicles, we think about those cars that we can drive, or the cabs that we have been taking here in Dalian as well. But during the sessions, what was clear is that the discussion and the industry goes beyond that. We heard from Volvo, for example, talking about electric trucks for commercial use, and even the industry looking at how electric vehicles, trucks, cars, because of their batteries, whether they can be used as energy storage solutions so as to be able to make greater use of renewable energy. And I just want to come back to what the former Chinese minister had to say. He was asked whether he expected, with the intense competition in the EV market right now, whether this will lead to a reshuffle of the market. But he did say what was important is that competition should not just be on price, but it should also focus on quality, and the electric vehicle qualities still needs to continue to be improved and looked at and developed in the years to come. I'll tell you.
Well, that was an electrifying report. Thanks so very much. CNA's Olivia Siong and Tan Sihui speaking to us live from the Summer Davos in Dalian.